Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar. The webinar is produced and put on by Stay in Touch, and the topic really is a very interesting one to pursue. Your guests are dynamic, your hotel property management system should be too. Future-proofing your hotel with a mobile PMS to handle the fluidity of guest expectations and to generate more revenue. We have two great panelists today. My name is Alan Young. I'll be moderating, and let me introduce the panelists to you first and foremost. I'd like to introduce Nicoles Presentation. She's the Vice President of Product Management, Hotel Operations, and the product guru for Stay in Touch. Nicole has spent more than 12 years in the regional divisions of microsystems, where she was divided between product and project management of property, Salesforce, and central reservation systems. For the past 8 years, she led the enterprise team in Asia Pacific as Director of Operations, looking after large-scale software implementations, as well as managing the regional launch of e-commerce products and smartphone applications. During her time at Micros, Nicole worked as a close liaison with product management and made many other contributions to both the property management and central reservation products. Nicole joined Stay in Touch early in 2013, which is really at the infancy of the company, spearheading the property management systems development from the very beginning. I'd like to also introduce Jeff, who's the Director of Product Management for Stay in Touch. Jeff Mayerczak. Jeff brings over 20 years of technology, product management, and user experience leadership to Stay in Touch from his executive tenure leading digital consumer experiences, marketplaces, and commerce. He has previously served as the head of digital storefront with BlackBerry, where he led efforts to drive app, music, and video downloads to 80 million consumers through the digital marketing and merchandising area. He was VP in product management at Cellmania, acquired by BlackBerry in 2010, and Senior Director of Product Management at Kajet, a national kid-friendly prepaid mobile service. In 2004, Jeff launched Nextel's equivalent of the App Store and grew content revenues from 2 to 80 million in just under 3 years. While at GE, he led the commercialization and internationalization of GE's B2B marketplace product line for uniting buyers and sellers and reducing friction in the supply chain. You'll hear from Jeff later on in the broadcast related to the guest engagement model from a mobile perspective. And myself, my name is Alan Young. I'm the president and co-founder of Puzzle Partner Limited. We're a strategic and tactical marketing firm that focuses on assisting B2B technology vendors within the hotel and travel industry. I bring 25 years of hotel technology and travel distribution experience to bear, which just tells you how old I am. And I'm very excited about hosting this webinar today. So let's get right into it. So the webinar agenda, we're really looking at 5 key takeaways today. Why hotels should use technology to embrace the fluid changes in guest expectations and experience. How your hotel's operational efficiencies can be enhanced with a mobile property management system. Using a mobile property management system to streamline the guest journey and enhance efficiencies between front and back of house. Why equipping your staff with a mobile PMS solution is a surefire way to future-proof your property. And ultimately, choosing the right property management system for your hotel. Next slide, please. So we're going to do 2 audience questions right up front. The first question really is around what your current system has the capacity to do. So if you wouldn't mind we'll take aside about a minute to get this done. Does your current property management system enable mobile check-in and check-out? Fairly straightforward question. Please select yes, no, or I don't know. And I'll go ahead and wait for those responses. Give you guys about another 15 seconds because it's a pretty easy one to answer. And let's see where we stand with this question. So some of you certainly have the capability to enable this. Some of you do not, but the bulk do not. and some people are kind of standing in the middle, not fully aware of their property management system capabilities. Now that's not unusual, because there are a number of systems that are underutilized that are out in the market today. That's for sure. The next question we want to ask everyone is, does your current property management system enable housekeeping to change room status and access guest reservation information? So does it really enable housekeeping to be part of the value chain within managing on-property operations? So once again, the answers are very straightforward: yes, no, and I don't know. So we'll take 30 seconds to get that one answered. Give everybody 10 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and take a look. And the big reveal is, so we have a high level of the capability for property management systems to have their housekeepers change room status and access guest reservations, which is great to hear. No, and then a small percentage of I don't know. So thank you very much for taking those poll questions up front. That helps us a great deal in order to make sure that we're delivering the right kind of information to you during the webinar. So I'm going to kick things off with some data. Puzzle Partner is a proud partner of Focusrite, and we use their data extensively. But over the past years, there's been dramatic changes in guest expectations and what guests are looking for. There has been the onus on the guest, placed by hoteliers, which is great, but the guests want to feel as if they're being treated as a VIP, that they're unique, that they can get immediate gratification, not only from the products that they use, whether that be mobile check-in or other products, but also in how they're communicated with during, pre, and post-stay. The interesting dynamic, however, from 10 years ago to even today, where the hotels themselves were more in control of the guest communications. They were in control of the conversation, because there really wasn't that two-way conversation route open to guests. Where today there are many different products in the marketplace that enable hotels to do very terrific things with guests, not only from a messaging perspective, but also from gathering data and analyzing the data to ensure that the guests are feeling as if they're a VIP. Guests will ultimately always decide which channel they choose for communication, whether that channel may be still the phone, it may be online, it may be text messaging, it may be using different apps that are delivered to them, but ultimately they'll be the ones to decide how they want to communicate with the hotel. And this is a completely different shift from previous years. As I said earlier on, people are unique, and as they wanted to be treated as such. Now hotels are looking at multiple profiles for guests. So my profile for a business trip would change dramatically if I were traveling on a personal trip with my family. And thus my specific interests, features, recommendations, etc., and the level of service I require may be different based upon what type of trip I'm on. So it really boils down to service. And the service aspect of hotels can be seen, I believe, on the upswing, but there still is a substantial delta between what guests expect and what hoteliers are delivering. So from the Focusrite standpoint, they did a great survey late in 2016, which is, what do travelers really want? What are they looking for in the products that they use in order to interact with hotels? And the primary issue was they wanted something to use for check-in, check-out without using the front desk. They're looking for recommendations on and information. They're looking to manage their bookings, make new bookings, modify bookings, etc. And then farther down the road, you look at, they want to book amenities, which is driving greater revenues for the hotels. They want to chat, and then at the bottom of the list was chat with other hotel guests. I'm not too sure if that's from Focusrite's perspective, if that's chatting with people that they don't know or chatting with people within their sphere of influence. If it's the latter, I would suggest that they probably have their cell numbers that they can message them with anyways. But once again, if you look at what they're looking to do, they're looking to interact and get really involved in the process. They want to make food reservations. They want to book a spa. They want to book amenities, etc., or purchase amenities. But the direct issues are that very tactical check in, check out, and get recommendations. So it's quite interesting how they're getting this how the market's moving this way. Next slide, please. So what are the tech rollouts in 2016? What were some of the biggest ones that came out? And this was a lodging technology survey done in latter part of 2016. And one of them was location-based technology, which we know there are a number of what are called beacons in the marketplace today, whereby if your location-based services are turned on in your cell phone, you can be offered coupons, etc., different types of offers related to your proximity within the hotel in order to incentivize you to purchase different things or just get involved in the conversation. Also, we're looking at tablets at the front desk. Tablets for use by the guests, but also for use by the front desk employees is a definite top tech rollout in 2016. And then we're looking at applications that enable the consumer, the guest, to be mobile. Mobile is an important part of today's technology ecosystem, and I want to ensure that people understand that mobile is not just a standalone smartphone. Mobile is a myriad of devices that can be used that are basically unchained from the front desk or unchained from anywhere. We're talking tablets, smart devices such as smartphones, etc., and any other devices that have the capability to go ahead and transmit data that enable employees and your guests to go ahead and reach beyond the current state. So, next slide, please. Why hotels need to take action. Excuse my little image of a race car down in the bottom, but I'm a huge Formula One fan, and the minute I take a look at race cars, I ultimately think about speed, and I think that's where our industry is headed. The speed of innovation, the speed of technological adoption, both from the guest and the consumer standpoint, and as well as the hoteliers, is daunting. So I'm going to get to that point first, which is really, there are a myriad of providers in today's marketplace that are selling you many different types of products, and they're all hoping to deliver you a new world per se. But you've got to make sure that the bedrock, the foundation of your offering is strong, and that really relies on the property management system and how it can be tailored, developed, and delivered both internally and externally. Hotels are losing versus larger brands and OTAs, mostly independents. You've got to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, and technology is an enabler to that. Because guests are fickle, and they need to find a reason to return. They need to understand that they do feel important. And as such, the fickle nature of the guest can be a huge detractor from your revenue stream if they're bouncing around from property to property. So by ensuring that the guest feels special, is delivered technology in whatever manner they so choose, is an incredibly important thing to highlight as you go ahead and decide on what property management systems you may want to implement next. You want to give them different reasons to want to return, and those reasons are high touch, no touch technology and service. And I talk about high touch. I personally am a high touch guest. I love to be pampered when I get into a hotel. I love people to say hello to me, and I like talking back to them and talking with them, not talking back at them, and ensuring that there's a conversational flow there. I know there are peers that I work with that could care less about talking to the front desk. They want to circumnavigate it. They want to go to their room. They want to use their phone to open up the door. They want to get on their laptop, and they want to either get working or doing other things. So they really don't need a whole bunch of interaction with the hotel employees. And the technology and service are basically the back end of enabling either high touch or no touch, or enabling what the guest really wants and ensuring that you can deliver this to them. As I said earlier, technological changes are happening at an incredible rate. So hoteliers and the technological providers that provide systems to those hotels need to deal with this speed. They need to be able to action on the different variables that hoteliers and guests are looking for on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. But ultimately, they need to deliver the satisfaction based upon the technology that is offered. And if the guest satisfaction is at an optimal level, the hotelier can rest assured that the technological satisfaction will be at the same level, because those two things are inseparable. And finally, data. We know that data is key in a number of systems that are managed by hotels on any given day, but it really is how do you use that data? What type of data is most important to Hotel A might not be most important to Hotel B. And as such, having a plethora of data is incredibly important, but understanding how you mine and manage and use that data from an actionable standpoint is also incredibly important. So on that note, I think we'll move over to Nicoles' presentation, which really is more about combining all of these different facets, the guest side, the front desk implementation, and how it's managed. What does mobile and its implementation, its impact on revenue managers, what does that look like? What does a mobile property management really do with housekeeping? How is it an empowerment tool? How can it be used as a data tool? So these things are all a cohesive fit in order to make that mobile property management system really start singing. So Nicole, without ado, I will pass over to you to pick up from here.
Yes, thanks, Alan. So yes, as you rightly said, apart from being designed to improve the guest journey, which we'll talk about a little later on in our webinar, can a mobile PMS actually improve the hotel's operational efficiencies? The answer is yes, and in many ways. We just look at a couple of departments today within a hotel that we can easily identify already some very clear benefits, primarily provided through the uniqueness of having mobile access to the PMS data. So most importantly, the hotel staff is no longer tied to the desk. So that in itself is a revolutionary change to the way people work at the moment. So take the revenue manager, for example. Especially in hotels with no or no interface revenue management system, he or she no longer needs to worry about the best way to quickly relay important trend changes to the colleagues in reservations or front office. With a few simple touches or clicks on the mobile PMS, whatever device used, it should be possible to open or close rates, change the price information, and the revenue manager can actually put measures into action without having to sit at the desk, without having to phone in the hotel, without having to go and talk to people. So it can actually be done from within a staff meeting, after just finishing an external customer meeting outside of the hotel, or even from home. Or take a sales manager, for example, who's discussing some conference details with a future client right from the hotel lobby's coffee bar. So a few minutes in, the client is asking if we can maybe add 10 more rooms to the second day of the group stay, contrary to what was discussed over the phone. And by checking availability in the PMS directly on a tablet or a smartphone, rather than having to go back to the desk and telling the customer that they need a few minutes to check it out, the answer can actually be given right here, right there. So definitely improving the way staff operates and the way we're efficiently working for our day-to-day in the hotel. But looking at the GM, who doesn't actually roam more around the hotel than the GM itself? And the job is normally to be on the floors, to see what's going on, to check out all the departments, to meet and greet and control and negotiate and supervise. So how can there not be a better way than to actually have the PMS right there with you in your suit pocket? Next slide, please. But looking away from these departments and looking at one that where I feel mobility actually shows its true benefits in a different department, which has often historically been neglected when technology changes have been considered in a hotel. There's always been reluctance in the industry to equip housekeeping staff with expensive mobile devices to do a better job. So this is a department that often in many places continues to operate a little bit like a dinosaur with a clipboard and a pen, not having really advanced over the years in their technology operations. And we are failing to actually enable that staff to engage with the guests and to offer better services. It is, however, really important to enable housekeeping to better understand the floor, the rooms, and the guests. Why is that so? Just think about what a mobile PMS actually has to offer for them. We often forget that housekeeping is probably the second in line, I would think, as far as guest engagement is concerned in hotels. Often the cleaning staff has more guest interaction than front desk and is likely to largely contribute to the permanent impression that the property or your hotel actually leaves when the guest departs. So why do we not enable them to know your guests better and to have more access to hotel services? So I would like to really encourage everyone to start rethinking this a little bit and see how we can enable that department to serve the guests better. And with a mobile PMS, that's one big step in the right direction. There'll be no more delays in receiving the updated room status information, to have access to the latest room moves that front office just did, to view stay extensions or service requests that have come in. There's no more waiting for the staff, for the manager to locate the relevant staff member to relay the latest changes, or run around on the floors trying to find people, radio them. There's also hopefully no more embarrassing moments by walking into a supposedly unoccupied room because on the printed out piece of paper in the morning it was showing differently, or calling a guest by the wrong name. And also one important aspect is guest identification. We often don't enable housekeeping to be able to identify the guest. Hence they can't even extend a simple service of opening a door or helping a guest out with the key when for whatever reason it doesn't work anymore. I'm sure we've all been in that situation, and it always happens when you have the room that's furthest away from the desk. Feeling frustrated that the housekeeping staff can't help you further? I'm sure that's happened to pretty much everyone in the past. So in a truly mobile PMS, housekeeping should never be the missing piece. Imagine your guest, you extend all these mobile guest services that Jeff will talk about and present to you in a moment, and you offer late checkout to be purchased through a mobile device, which the guest will happily do so without any interaction with your front desk, only to then be disturbed by multiple knocks on the door because this important information has not yet filtered through to the staff on the floors. So in short, making your housekeeping staff mobile will probably give you one of the greatest improvements in operational efficiency with very minimal effort, expense, and training. Next slide, please. But if we really talk about operational efficiency improvements, we need to, of course, cover the front office. That is one area where we'll definitely see some revolutionary changes of making the staff mobile. So first of all, since the front office staff can now rely on housekeeping to provide the up-to-date status updates in real time, the PMS can now offer plenty or has plenty of room for upsell opportunities and better service all around at the desk. But not only that, the front office can actually send instant action requests to the colleagues who normally are not desk-based and who are normally very hard to reach. So such as queuing rooms or adding extra beds or making restaurant table reservations, whatever it may be that the guest actually requests from the front office staff, the agent can actually just place a service request and monitor it, maybe even being assigned, put in progress, or even completed while they're still talking to the guest. They can do so and give the guest their attention without actually having repeatedly try and get hold of the colleagues or phone them or page them, and then at the end having to tell them that they can't reach them and have to get back to them. But one of the nicest part for front office is actually that the mobile PMS will allow them to be mobile themselves. So say goodbye to endlessly standing behind a desk, and say goodbye to having a physical barrier between the guest and staff, which I strongly believe is where today's hospitality operations is heading towards. So this in itself has just so many advantages. Imagine if you have to deal with a very difficult guest at front desk. That is always a difficult task to deal with, and it usually happens right at peak checkout time with about 20 or 30 guests standing around waiting to check out and watching and listening to everything that's going on. So now that's a really different type of task to deal with. With a mobile PMS, you take it with you as well as the guest, and you walk away. You take the problem with you to a quiet corner, a more relaxed ambience with less people, offer the guests an open ear away from everything else. So now that's a different level of service. And the guests will feel listened to, understood, hopefully, and the rest of the crowd in the lobby won't actually need to be exposed to what's going on. Plus, your staff will probably leave that situation a lot more relaxed. And for my final point, long queues, congested desks, enough staff, but not enough workstations during busy times. I'm pretty sure that everyone is familiar with. So mobile PMS will actually help you to put this problem behind you, as the hotel staff just grabs the mobile device, leaves the desk area, and joins the guests in the lobby away from the crowds to complete the check-in process. So that will truly revolutionize your lobby and the reception area and turn it into a more relaxed and efficient space and workplace where the guests and the staff can actually engage and bond. Over to you, Alan. Thank you.
Nicole, thank you very much. That was great. A little bit of housekeeping too. Using the GoToWebinar control panel, if anybody who's attending the webinar would like to ask questions of either Jeff or Nicole, please go ahead and type your questions in there, and we'll be sure to try to get to them. We will make some time available at the end of the webinar for questions to be answered. So please go ahead and do so. We'd love to hear from you. So the next phase really is about guest experience, guest engagement. And we've heard a lot in the marketplace about the importance of this over the past few years. So I'm going to pass over to Jeff right now to get his take on what guests are looking for and how hoteliers can really address the needs, requirements, and wants of today's guests. So Jeff, over to you.
Thank you, Alan. So if we look at the slide, it's a traditional guest journey from exploration through returning home. And there's lots of different pieces in that flow. What we'll focus on today is a bit more around the stay experience, and specifically we'll look at the arrival, the in-house experience, and then the departure process, and how mobile PMS really helps to set new levels of guest engagement. So on the arrival side, the hotel has the opportunity to interact with a guest really depending on what they know about the guest. As we all know, getting access to guest contact information can be a challenge based on the channel that the guest does the booking. But in the case where we know that guest and we have contact information, the hotel can really take the first action in order to interact with that guest. Either the day of or day before arrival, there's an opportunity to welcome that guest and offer them a remote check-in. They can use any digital channel that's available, whether that's email in order to make that initial outreach, text messaging, or even potentially an app push notification if the guest has downloaded a hotel's app. In the situation where the hotel doesn't have that guest contact information directly, we're really reliant on the guest to take that first step, which requires a different level of interaction with the guest in order to make them aware of the opportunity to do something like a remote check-in. Perhaps advertising something on your website, or if you do offer a mobile app, a campaign in order to build awareness and drive downloads of that app prior to this stay. In both cases, offering choice on the property is important. The guest may need to or want to interact directly with a person in order to conduct their check-in, or they will use a digital channel such as a kiosk or their smartphone in order to complete the check-in process. When it comes to the staff member, there's obviously the traditional front desk, but as mentioned by Nikki and Alan, there is the opportunity to remove the front desk and have any staff member armed with a mobile device to facilitate the check-in and welcome the guest into the hotel. The check-in in a little bit more detail should be as pleasant as an interaction with the staff, simple, intuitive, user-friendly. There's an opportunity to collect data about the guest, arrival times, special requests, contact information, and have that data fuel interactions with the rest of the hotel. For example, if the arrival time has changed, we can alert the rest of the staff and the housekeeping in order to align things properly. There's definitely opportunities to improve or personalize the stay and generate additional ancillary revenue through things like upselling early check-in, offering room upgrades, and upselling packages in order to help make that experience a bit more customized to what the guest is looking for. There's also the opportunity to deliver the room key through a remote or digital check-in, and that could be something like you pick up the key from the front desk after receiving a QR code, you visit the kiosk and take a special code and convert that into a key, or you have a mobile app and that becomes the phone key using Bluetooth technology. So several different key experiences available that all need to work seamlessly with that mobile PMS. When in-house, there's an opportunity for that guest to interact with the staff in multiple ways, either in person, which is traditionally, but also now digitally, either through text or chat services, email communication, within an app, or through a website. Those opportunities allow further ways to personalize that stay, packages, room service, requests to housekeeping, learning more about the hotel's amenities, and learning about what's going on in the local area in order to make the stay a bit more relevant. On the departure or checkout side, because we've already been able to collect the contact information from the guest, whether email or mobile phone, there's an opportunity to have a larger audience for a digital checkout experience. That experience would allow, the choice that the guest has to complete the checkout can be like on check-in, interacting with a person or doing something digitally, whether through a self-service kiosk or directly from the guest's mobile phone. And because we have the contact information where we've collected it during a check-in process, there is a larger opportunity to use a digital channel for checkout. We give the guest the ability to extend departure through late checkout, and as Nicole mentioned, if a guest purchases something for a late checkout, the staff and the housekeeping are immediately alerted as to avoid that embarrassing knock on the door to see, are you still there? With the checkout experience, there's also the opportunity through digital methods to collect feedback on the stay in order to correct things potentially before the guest leaves the building. And with that, I'd like to pass it back over to Nikki.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So we touched on how a mobile PMS can actually improve hotel operations as well as guest services, but what other benefits does a mobile and cloud-based PMS actually need to hold for the hotel nowadays to be able to actually assist the hotel in future-proofing it? So I would like to present 5 points that we feel your modern-day PMS should actually provide you with. Moving on to the next slide, please. So first of all, it needs to have offer IT simplicity. So cloud-based PMS helps to simplify your operations for your IT staff, and it lifts the burden of security off of the property. It usually also comes with as a powerful hub that helps you easily connect and integrate with a host of other solutions and takes all that responsibility away from the hotel. So terms like upgrades, version control, compatibility, all these terms that we often struggle with and that we have a lot of involvement and work with in the hotel, they should be a term of the past, and they should no longer really worry the hospitality industry. Next slide, please. Secondly, the next point that's very, very important for a PMS to offer is design. It's a good and solid, straightforward design. So, of course, we need to have an easy-to-use design, just like any app you would download to your phone or tablet. You would not expect to actually need any specific user training to be able to navigate through the app. So that why shouldn't the same apply to your PMS? You should really just download it and get started. Looking at some of the staff turnover rates, as we all know, in some of the departments, specifically the non-management departments, the turnover rates have traditionally always been very high. So looking at some of these staff turnover rate, a good design and easy-to-use PMS will give you huge benefits over systems with extensive training needs. The right PMS should also offer a choice of service to the guest. So as Alan has mentioned this before, this is a very, very important aspect when you look at what technology you want to provide in your hotel. So whether it is a self-service or mobile check-in and check-out, or whether the guest prefers to speak to a real person, your guests should be able to choose, which is key. And which is one of the most important rules in the modern hospitality world. A revenue generator, we often forget about that. It's not just there to book, check in and check out, but why don't we let the PMS actually bring in some extra dollars on the side through upsell, through early check-in, late checkout, additional add-ons, anything that we can offer to the guest. So if it's designed the right way, then there should be a lot of room to actually capitalize on ancillary revenues with the guest even noticing. And lastly, we should be able to actually access the PMS anywhere, anytime, inside and outside the hotel, just like you access anything in today's modern world on any device. So the PMS should be no different. So the key word is really mobility. Thank
Great.
you, Alan. Over to you.
Nikki. Thanks, Nikki. Jeff, that's great. We do have a few questions from the audience, which are very, very interesting. Nikki, the first one's for you. The vision of a mobile PMS, do you really need to completely remove that front desk, or is the vision more of a hybrid kind of environment?
Well, I think I would probably go with the hybrid environment, but it is essentially up to every hotel to decide what's right. But since we've been talking about giving the choice of service to the guest, I think removing the front desk completely does not have to be. So while the trend is certainly heading towards a more freely moving front office staff in the lobby, I think there's still many guests that like to see and easily identify the traditional front desk. So we should think about giving guests the option to remove the physical barrier between them and the hotel staff and take someone aside with them and walk around and talk about something maybe a bit more personal. But we should still ensure that the lobby-based staff that is not behind the desk can actually easily be identified to the guests as still represents a front desk extension. But in any case, as we said, the guest should have the choice of service.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Jeff, there's one for you here, which is really talking about in a property with many different potential room upgrades, how many should be offered? Obviously this can be seen as the revenue generating side of a property management system, but you can go overboard, or at times you can have too little. So what's your recommendation?
That's a great question. Yeah, this is an opportunity to generate ancillary revenue from the guest that's already made the booking and is about to arrive. In general, my recommendation is anywhere between 3 to 5. We want to avoid what we call the paradox of choice when it comes to presenting a guest or any person really with too many options. So keeping it to a limited set and having a PMS technology or platform that allows you to control that, so that you're not really offering an unlimited set of room upgrades so that the guest is too busy to figure out the differences as they're trying to complete that mobile check-in. So in summary, paradox of choice is something we want to avoid. Keep the room upsell limit really to somewhere between 3 or 5.
Right. Got it. Okay. That's great advice. Nikki, you really talk about housekeeping and technology and the applicability here from the mobile perspective to empower the housekeeper to be able to deliver greater service to the guest and to be able to do more things, really. But that being said, in the past, companies have tried to have housekeepers use devices that can be seen to be rather expensive. You know, how does a hotel decide what to use and how to implement?
Yes, that's a very good point, actually. So I have also found this a lot talking to hotels. And in the past, maybe we didn't have as much flexibility in our technology offerings in the hospitality markets. Traditionally, this would have been a quite expensive undertaking to actually make the housekeeping department become mobile. But it does not have to be anymore in today's world. So really, the mobile PMS should just run on any smartphone. No different to any other web-based application or app. And really, in theory, the housekeeping staff could actually use their own phone to just run it. So it definitely doesn't have to be expensive. But if there's still some reluctance to really equip the housekeeping staff with devices, due to the nature of the job, there's obviously also some concern about frequent replacement that's needed of devices, but there's always other options that we talk to hotels about, like fitting the cleaning card with a tablet, or having one on the floor or in the cleaning cabinet accessible to multiple users. So there's definitely ways around it and still, you know, provide the housekeeper with a good tool to actually perform the job better.
Gotcha. Do you ever foresee, other than 911 issues, because I know housekeeping and property management, they used to use the in-room telephone to update statuses with the PBX, et cetera, and connect to the property management system. Other than 911, which really is a requirement, a legal requirement for there to be a phone in the guest room, do you see that there will always be a phone in the guest room moving forward, or do you see that that itself might go away too? So maybe housekeepers are going to be forced into using a mobile device.
I would definitely agree with you there, yes. And I have already seen this happening a lot, especially, I would say, from my experience in the Asian region. I've seen a lot of hotels starting to remove the actual phone, feeling that it doesn't really go hand in hand with the sleek, more modern design of the room. A lot of hotels actually give or equip the guest room with a small iPad or any other touch device that the guest can use to perform, you know, any actions they need, rather than having to use the more old-fashioned phone. Yeah. So yes.
Cool. That's great. So that kind of dovetails into a question that was asked for you, Jeff. You know, at a Focusrite conference last year, they talked about the decline of adoption of mobile apps and the increase of adoption of the mobile web. So what is the right solution for engaging your guests, or does it really matter?
It's a great question, and one that's often debated. I think they serve different audiences. So the mobile web gives you the most access. So be able to outreach to a guest through an email in order to trigger a mobile web check-in process doesn't require the guest to download an app, so it removes a lot of the friction in the process. And it's generally available to most smartphones today, given that the smartphone world has really settled on Android and iOS. The mobile app, however, brings an additional level of functionality that's not possible with mobile web, and that gets into the mobile key. In order to offer mobile key, you really need to have a mobile app. There's a certain segment of the world that, or I should say that of guests, that will prefer a mobile app, and you could argue that they would be probably the younger generation. They're the ones who've been grown up in the app economy, and are used to apps for doing things. So the real sweet spot is to offer both. Having a mobile web experience will hit everybody because of the capabilities of the smartphones today, but the mobile app will probably tailor more to the people who want to have the mobile key experience, plus folks that are a bit more familiar with apps. The last point, though, on the app would be that's a solution for the repeat visitor segment. I've seen data in the airline industry which shows that airline apps are often used by the folks who travel those airlines the most, but we all know that the airlines often offer check-in experiences that are not app-based but mobile web-based in order to account for the folks who are not the repeat buyers or repeat users or the ones that just simply didn't want to invest in downloading the app prior to their departure time.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. So that brings to conclusion our webinar for today. Next slide. If you want to reach out to Jeff, Nicole, or myself at any time to ask us questions in the future, we'd be happy to respond. The webinar itself will be available within the next 24 hours for non-attendees to review. And Jeff and Nicole, I'd like to thank you very, very much for being involved in today's webinar and giving us some great food for thought. And we'll look forward to doing some more of these in the future. So thank you to everybody, and thank you for everyone that attended.
Actually,
yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Alan, I think there was 2 questions that came in, 2 additional questions.
Oh, I didn't see them. Go ahead. I didn't see them.
Okay, both from Jay Atherton. So the first one is this a direct replacement for an existing PMS system that is already in place, or does it interface with a standing PMS?
I can answer that. So if we're talking, well, if you're talking about the Stay in Touch product, we can offer both. So we can offer the replacement of the PMS, and with our own PMS can obviously give you access to the traditional PMS functionality as well as the mobile solutions that we talked about. But we also have integration to Oracle's PMS Opera, which we call our overlay product. So with that, you can actually use just our mobile solution, and that interfaces directly with the more traditional Opera PMS.
And Jeff, you said there was one more?
Yeah, it was also from Jay, somewhat related. Is it possible to integrate the housekeeping and front office portions into an existing PMS?
Yeah, I would think that's probably answered with the previous question. So to Oracle's product at the moment, yes, it's possible.
Yeah, thank you very much for those questions, Jay. From my vantage point, I think it's incredibly important to understand the technology that sits behind the scenes and whether it's been built with mobile in mind versus companies that are putting a layer of mobile on top of an on-premise product that they're maybe making cloud enabled as well. That's something that needs to be researched as the decision-making process ramps up in any hotel to move away from their current property management system to something new. So my apologies, Jay. I didn't see those. Those weren't up on my list. But once again, thank you everyone for your time. And if you want to get in touch with us or review the webinar at further length, it'll be up and available in 24 hours. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Nikki. And enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.